is almost 9 over here. I'm trying to get in the habit of starting these earlier on Saturday because usually there's some series of errands that uh, my not so friendly relative likes for me to run, and one of them today was going to the market, even though I already went the day before. Um, what fun that'll be, I have no idea. But I want to start this off by talking about movie theaters and really just the ridiculous prices of them, I should say. So last year when I went to the theater, and it was a record of times because I was going with my brother. I'd say I probably went anywhere between 5 to 7 times. Um, and the tickets usually, if it was me alone, it's probably $12 for a singular person. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I always remember this particular. This is from 2014, and I know it's almost 10 years ago, but just an example. I went with this one person. Me, this other person. They were an adult. I was at the time a teenager, but I was still counted as an adult. Um, it was 18 for us to go, and I remember it was 18 because when I gave them $20, they handed me back $2. I always remember that distinctively because I was like, wow. Um, but anyways, me and this person went to the theater several times last year, and I'm thinking it was probably around 20 or 18 at that point as well, like somewhere around creeping toward 20 is what I would say the price was. So after going this past, because I haven't been to the theater all year until this month. Um, because really there's nothing has come out that's really like spurred me like, oh, I have to see this. Uh, you know, and of course it's kind of funny. I actually did see the Mario movie for the first time yesterday. And if there's one film I regret not seeing, in theaters this year, it's probably that one. I really liked it. Um, there's very much not a dull moment. It's got some comedy. I appreciated that it was very willing to stay true to its source material while deviating a little bit. I liked it, and I think the changes that were made were either okay or good. I thought it was nice, and that's like the only movie this year I'm like, oh, I wish I could have seen this in theater, but I didn't really know much about it, and I didn't know anyone who saw it, so I just kind of, so all right, well, maybe if this is decent, I'll check it out when it comes out on DVD or whichever other format we can get it in. And finally saw it last night. But to get back to my point, I haven't been to the theater this year at all until this month, and I pre-ordered some tickets. It was like $14. Then I went with this other person to see the same film because they wanted to see it. It was 26, and I was just thinking, like, because Flash is coming out, what, next week, the 16th. And then later this year, we're getting Aquaman 2. And I think at one point, we're also going to be getting, I still feel like it's probably going to get delayed, but Ghostbusters Afterlife, the sequel to that, I guess you call it Ghostbusters 4. I don't know what title to use, but that's be coming out in December. And I'm just thinking, like, man, if you try to go to the theater with these types of price, like even if you just go by yourself, let's say once every week, once every 2 weeks throughout the year, you're talking about spending 100 something dollars just to go and sit in a room with dim lighting and a big screen. I don't know. I just think the stuff is getting really pricey. Like I'm kind of at a point now where unless it's something I've been waiting for literal years, it's very unlikely I'll see it in theaters because it just costs too much. And I don't say that with any sense of happiness or enjoyment, but uh when you have to pay for your own, groceries and gas, I think you understand where I'm not prioritizing going to the theater. And I like going to the theater. I've always enjoyed, going out and sitting with people and hearing their reaction to certain things, and just just the whole general sense of unknown of like, hey, what's this crowd going to think of this movie? Are they going to like it? Are they going to despise it? So I'm not. I do enjoy being around people and kind of seeing what their response to things will be usually. Um, but I just can't justify like the price of this stuff. I really can't. I remember last year I was complaining about how I thought the food at the theater was too expensive. And I maintain that position because when I went there the last time, it was like $5 for for a drink. And then my thing is like, yeah, they give you refills, but when you're in the theater and you're sitting there watching your hour and a half or 2 hour movie, you're probably not going to want to get up to get a refill. Especially depending on how far it is. Basically, you'd be disincentivized by the fact that you're watching something with no breaks, and depending on how far away your auditorium is from the place where the food is, you'll take anywhere between a minute to several to just get that refill and come back, even if you run. Um, but getting back to what I was saying, $5 for a drink. About four. I've seen little tiny bags of chips that they want $4 for. The price of the food was always what I thought was the most ridiculous. So I said the stuff just costs too much. But really, I feel that way about a lot of things, like just the expenses to just do these things and to be involved with trying to see stuff. Like I'm not even joking. I don't know how anyone who's not rich or because even if I had like a regular, you know, 15 17, $18 an hour job. And I'm not talking about that crap from that other place. They wanted to give me 19.50 an hour, but it's only like 4 hours a day or something. Um, Even if I had a regular full time position, I still couldn't imagine like being able to afford this stuff. That's how costly it is. Like every week, being expected to shell out almost $20 just to go sit in front of a screen. So I don't know how people do it. Well, I know of one way they do it, but it doesn't. And honestly, I don't like the way I've always felt with theaters is that I understand where you don't want someone to get something you made for free. I really do. Like I get where that's a big irritation, but if stuff costs so damn much to just go see, um, I really I don't feel bad for them because in almost every instance, these studios are hundreds of millions of dollars to throw around and play with, and they're asking people to spend damn near $20 just to sit in front of the screen for 2 hours or 1 hour, and then be expected to do that again if they want to see something else. So I my sympathy for them is kind of limited. I saw this one review that somebody made on this on I forget which movie it was, but they said you have to get ready to spend half your earnings for the month to go see a movie. I'm really trying to figure out when did these prices become so just so ridiculous. I'm really trying to remember what started that because I don't think it was I don't know. It's just nuts to me. So yeah, stuff costs too much. It's really insane. I would not recommend it to anybody. Like I said, my thing is there's about on average a handful of movies I really want to see each year, and I'll go out and show up for those. But the rest of that stuff, I'm not even gonna bother because it just costs too much. Like just to go and see a film, it's like and with somebody else, it's almost like 30. It's closer to $30 than it is to 20. That's nuts. But again, people just don't care. They're well, not people, but rather these theaters. Like I said, I remember when it cost less than 20 for two people to go. Now it costs almost 30 for two people to go. I still might not even see the Flash in theaters. Like the biggest thrill for me was seeing Keaton back as Batman after 30 years, but from what people are saying, I heard one review say that he's more like an action figure than his own character. And then, I was excited for Zod as well from Man of Steel, but according to Michael Shannon, his version of the character is not going to be as sympathetic as he was in Man of Steel because he's more of an antagonistic force than an actual character, which already kind of annoys me because it's like that's what made the version from that movie so memorable to me, that he actually had a desire to save his people and just like actual depth. So to say that your return is going to be void of that depth is really unappealing to me, to say the least. What was this? Let me see here. But yeah, I'll probably see maybe at most two more movies in theaters this year, and that's it. So I'll be three movies, four visits. Like I said, stuff is just so pricey for no reason. I didn't even get to talk about Rise of the Beast. I was really just kind of on the fence about seeing that because I've said before the Bay Formers are not exactly my ideal version of that of Transformers, but I heard some positive things about it. Um, and really, I just kind of was like, whatever. I just said forget it. Hmm. Yeah, these series are just they're all. I don't know. I said before that's like the only one where I'd want it to be rebooted out of any of these different franchises, but they don't seem like they're going to do that. At least not in an overt way. They're gonna keep doing these little things. They're like, this movie is a prequel to this, and this movie's in the same continuity these other ones. It's like, how? They look nothing alike. They are directed by different people, but okay. They have massive continuity holes. Whatever. People can they can say whatever they want. Like again, like for me, most of the time I'm just concerned about telling a good story. So continuity issues don't bother me as much between sequels or whatever, but I still think you have to have at least some guidelines of what you're planning on having in your story. Because if when you start doing the whole this we can just flip this and not acknowledge that, it does mean that there's basically no rules. Like you can, whenever you have something that happened that people don't like, you can say, all right, well forget it didn't happen. Just pretend with us this did not occur. Like I said, I'll always be upset with Bay for killing off Jazz in the first movie because it's like that really did rob us of him being used at all in any of the sequels. Even in like flashbacks, they refuse to do those. And then even when they do something that supposedly is set before the first film, they still don't use him in like in any capacity. It's just annoying. Yeah, I've had a very interesting relationship with that series. I remember when the third one was coming out, they're like, "Oh, this is the last one," and that was before I hated trilogies as much as I do. I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then when the fourth one was coming out, it's like 3 years later. I didn't even bother. Like I just saw online like one of the plot details. Like this sounds stupid, so I just checked out of it. And then when the fifth one came out, everyone was talking about how bad that was, so I didn't even bother with it. And then Bumblebee came out and people were saying it was good, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. Uh, so I was like, I guess they learned their lesson. They shook things up apparently. Sometimes you really do have to let a series hit rock bottom before it can pull itself back up. But it's crazy how you can have a franchise that's filled with these so-so movies, like stuff that no one would tell you this is great. This is some amazing storytelling, which is not true for a lot of the later cartoons, like a lot of the stuff that comes, and especially a lot of the comics. Um, like there are people who are fans of the Marvel Transformers, people that are fans of the IDW run, but it's just interesting that you have this series of several so okay to awful films that just keeps every 2 to 3 years just keeps pumping out a new one. We've been getting a new one of these every 2 to 3 years since 2007, and it's not because these are these well crafted tales that are you know so interesting and adding new varieties and depths with these no, it's because they make a bunch of money. uh make a bunch of money. Hasbro can sell toys. you know they're really fascinated and extending their pockets. But I just find that it very interesting that like you have this series that just keeps going, not because it's good, not because it's doing anything that you would remotely find pleasing from a storytelling perspective, just because it makes money. I mean, literally, for if this was any other, like you just took this story, no robots, but just like people from space, some are good, some are bad, and you ran with the basic plot of the second film. Like I thought the first one was good. I like the first one, but if you run with the basic plot of like Revenge of the Fallen, and you put that in another film without robots, without the special effects, just that same basic plot, I am firmly convinced that would have killed this series. It would have ended in 2009 because it wouldn't have made as much money. It would have been panned by critics like Revenge of the Fallen actually was. Um, but somehow it made money. So they were like, all right, let's do a third one. And I think the third one is significantly better than the second one. Um, but I never saw the fourth or fifth one. I especially have no desire to I don't know. I feel like there's a part of me that has like a morbid curiosity about the fifth one because it like people got to a point with those. They're just like, okay, whatever. They're so or bad. But it's like that one must have been really like I've heard people say that it makes the second one seem like okay. It's wow. Because at least the second one, I've always been able to say, okay, there was the writer's strike. There was stuff going on behind the scenes, whatever. Um, Fifth one really had no excuse. I don't know what they were aiming for with that. Oh man. Yeah, people always want you to go and run some errands for them. It's so funny. They want you to travel around the world to do something they want. This whole thing is just so goofy to me. Like I still can't believe people actually sit around um like trying to tell somebody that they should because I like and I get it. I know people want to support their theater, but these prices, man. I can only do so much. You can only be pushed so far in one direction before you just say, all right, forget it. I already said I'm just kind of so with a lot of this stuff. It's not some big deal to me if I don't see it in a lot of cases. Because even when I was a kid, there was a lot of stuff I wanted to see that I just never. I guess I always remember just like in the past, uh, in like childhood, for example, there was always something I wanted that I didn't get. Uh, and like a lot of times that stuff would stick out to me like, man, I really wanted this and I never got it. And there is kind of this sense of I don't hold it against any particular relative or whatever. But it's just it's always like made memorable like for that like hey I wanted this thing and I never was able to get it that type of thing. We're just like wow this is not available to me at all. Because if you're a kid and you say you want something and your parent doesn't get it for you, who else can you expect to get it for you? So yeah, a lot of times I'll actually distinctively remember like what thing I wanted, and even sometimes I find myself going on sites like eBay, just looking at stuff like, wow, if I wanted to, I could get this. I just find that interesting, just kind of like seeing things from back then that are like still, somebody still has some version of it or whatever. It's like, man, that would be nice to have or to have had rather. Yeah, I was having a conversation with my brother about how like in every Transformers movie they have to basically kill off the whole damn cast, and I said, uh, I don't know if you remember, but in the first film, all of the Decepticons die except for three of them. It was Starscream, Scorponok, and Barricade. And Barricade actually, his situation is really interesting because in the like novelization, or I guess that's the graphic novel adaptation of the movie, they do have him getting killed by Optimus, but then in the actual film, he just disappears, like he just vanishes. And they when one of the directors not directors one of the writers was asked about this, he said it's maybe that's a teaser for the second film, and then in the second film he's not even in it. But speaking of the second film, the only three Decepticons that survive are Megatron, Starscream, and Soundwave. Everybody else. So that's just been a running theme of that series where they introduce some new members for each film who usually have no characterization whatsoever. Like the first movie's cast isn't even that big. It's got, you got five Autobots, I think seven Decepticons. And out of the Decepticons, besides maybe two of them. You really have no idea what the person, and and that's been the problem through that series. I can't tell you really anything about the villains at all besides maybe again two or three of them. Like very little. But yeah, this stuff is not too interesting to me as far as like just the same issues that series has always had are still around to some degree or another. I'm surprised there's a new Transformers movie coming out. I'm not. They make money. You want there to be no new ones? Stop going to see them, dude. They've been pumping one out literally every what 2 to 3 years for almost for what 15 years at this point. I'm not surprised by any of that, especially since they were hyping up the Maximals being in it, and then apparently based off the reviews I've seen, they don't even do anything. They're there, but that's it. They're basically just there to sell toys, not actually have a fulfilling arc or role in the story whatsoever. But no, don't be surprised by new Transformers. They're gonna have new Transformers for the next 30 years. As long as that stuff sells, they'll keep finding a way to creep back. Only way you could surprise me is if it didn't make any money. Then I'd be like, oh damn, they might actually not make another one. But no, if they get their little threshold, they're gonna keep on finding a way to squeeze back into your life. Like I said, as bad as that fifth one was, I really thought that was gonna be the end of it because that film was getting savage like there was no tomorrow. But it still turned a profit, and they still were able to squeeze out another movie. And I always have to remind myself, like a lot of these foreign markets, because Transformers does really well, and I think it's either China or Japan, where a lot of those other countries they love robots. Like the general audience, they love the CGI and the effects. And for them, it really is like I just want to see some robots on screen and punching each other. So, like I said, don't ever be surprised that they stick around. You're surprised, dude. Like at this point, the only like franchise I've seen that's as resilient as Transformers is probably maybe Terminator. Because I've seen some people who say the first two Terminators were excellent, and then all the ones after that are like range from okay to awful. And I remember when Dark Fate came out, everyone was talking about how crappy that movie was. It was like just trashing it, right? And guess what? Even after a movie that people were just saying was the worst ever, they still are going to make another one. So that's why I said don't ever, if this stuff turns a profit, it's going to keep coming back. Hell, I was surprised we were getting a new Ghostbusters. It took 20 years to get to get a new movie, and it wasn't even three. It was that the female version, and they were like, "Oh, this is gonna be the first of a trilogy," and then it like bombed at the box office. Uh, then they were like, "Okay, well, I guess we'll do something that's kind of in the same universe as the first film." So then they went back to that, and that one actually turned a profit. So now we're getting another one. I was like, wow, we're getting one 2 years after another one. That's the shortest gap. It's usually 5 to 20 years to get a new one. That's always the most interesting thing to me about film series where there's like a big gap between movies and then like at a certain point you just start getting them all over the place. You know, just because I'm so used to having to wait years and years for something that when you get multiple in like quick succession, it's like wow. No, the only thing you'll surprise me about that gets a new movie is G.I. Joe. That's the that's the only property I'll be like, wow, that they're still doing that. They're still trying. I don't know if it's a death grip. I mean, like Akatsuki Merchant, they've been this is Transformers exist for one purpose, which is to sell toys. And sometimes you get really good stories despite that, and sometimes you get really awful ones because of that. So, if he's been in a death grip, a capitalist death grip since '84, and it's going to keep being that way. How are you, Jem? Yeah, the reason the audio was low on the Biden video is because there was a person that was like trying to sleep in that same room, so I was trying to talk that loud. I tried to like get up close to the camera to talk. That's why a lot of times I'll just record stuff in here because I can be whatever volume I like without having to worry about someone saying you're too loud or any of that stuff. I know you were very offended. You had to take the video and stick it in iMovie and raise the volume to 400 plus. You were in the comments section raging. You had your pitchfork and your protest sign, and you were very disgusted. You said, "How could he do this?" Yeah, I was explaining to a Kotsky merchant that when you have a series that's based off of how much the products or the merchandise makes, as long as you're able to turn a profit from the merchandise, you're going to keep pumping it out. Because he was talking about he's surprised there's a new Transformers movie. I'm like, man, come on, that's no damn shock. Well, you know what I'm saying that like if you have a series that is literally based on how much can these toys make, and then not only do the toys turn a profit, but the show or the movie turns a profit, you're going to keep making more of it. Toys and clothes alone in the billions worldwide. Yeah, I'm just saying, like he had me laughing that he's actually shocked by that or surprised by that. Like they've been hyping that film up for months at this point. It just came out and they're already saying they want to do two more. This is all driven by profit. Yeah, and I was telling them that, it's interesting how there's a thing called critic proof where there's a movie that critics say this is not good, it's bad, don't watch it, but then it still does really well. And I was saying that in places like China, the Transformers films do very well. This again, despite what critics say, because a lot of those like foreign markets really like robots. They like Gundam and um, just stuff like that. So when they see all the transformations and all the different colored robots, they like it. They flock to it. Story be damned. They don't really care what some American critic has to say about the characters not being well characterized or given much. Forget it. Oh yeah, my dad loved the original series. I watched it too. At a obviously at a much later point. I said before, I'd watch the '80s cartoon any day over any of these damn films. No, there's a lot of just weird stuff that's going on though with these franchises and brands. Because I don't know how familiar you are with Terminator Gem, but I was pointing out to Akatsuki Merchant that Terminator's like the only other movie franchise I can think of where it's been going on for a long time, and every couple of years they put out a new one that people say is not good, and then they try again, and people keep saying it's not good, and they just keep coming back. Americans are too distracted by race and gender to enjoy any movie, dude. I'm not even joking. There's a movie that came out, and people are literally protesting it because there's a and it's there. I swear to you, you probably wouldn't even notice it if I didn't point this out. There's like a trans rights flag on one of the characters' walls, and then somebody has a BLM sticker. Again, there's no scenes talking about this, but this is just like on the screen briefly. You're like, I am not seeing this. This is woke film. I'm like, are you kidding me? The movie's not even about this. It's like, you know what I'm saying, dude? Like, imagine if I made a film where the story is just a regular, I don't know, like it's some adventure, right? They have to go and find, I don't know, some kind of thing they have to just go and look for, right? And while you're watching the movie, there's a 2-second scene where in the background you can see where it says "Save the planet" or address climate change. Again, the movie's not about climate change. The plot has nothing to do with that. It's just a little quick thing in the background that if you are just watching the film, you might not even notice because it's on screen for so little of amount of time. But it's like they take little stuff like that and really blow it out of proportion. And it is dumb, yeah. Well, no one is disputing the idea, right? Because the first movie is considered this big classic, same with the second one. But the execution is what I'm saying. A lot of people debate the merits of the sequels on. Like when Dark Fate came out, everyone was talking about how bad it was. And I forgot what the name of the one before that was. I think it was Genesis or something. But I'm just saying that they've made multiple attempts at doing one that people will like as much as the first or second one, and they have not succeeded. And it doesn't matter if they bring back some actor that played in the first one or the second one, they still get ran through the coals. And I was just saying that to mention how that's another series where it's like they keep getting these sequels that get ravaged by like critics, but they make some money, so they try again. People aren't entitled to their opinions. The producers make. That's why the attempt continues. Yeah. Oh, let me tell you what happened on WikiPiss. Because I this is so Jem, I don't know how familiar you are with my long time dissatisfaction with Wikipedia. I don't know how much you have followed that or know about it. But to give you a basic rundown, and it is all about the money, I agree. To give you a basic rundown, I find that site to be a very good concept of like, hey, here's this encyclopedia that anyone can edit, whatever. But the execution leaves a lot to be desired because a lot of times the users that are in charge are mods or even ones that don't even have like a leadership position. They try to be like controlling and tell you what you can or can't do. They make up rules that go, just like as they go along. They're not consistent with their own site. It's a place that's run by some people I really don't have much of a tolerance for. And I've made the promise that if they mess with me again, if because I had I'm in anarchist mode at this point where I basically said, you know what, I'm never going to be a mod. They're never going to appreciate what I've done for them. So I made the promise, the pledge that if they come and they start messing with me the way that they did 3 or 4 years ago, I'm gonna write so much nasty stuff they're gonna have to ban me off the whole site. It's because like I'm through with them. We're like they're not doing that to me directly at this point, but we'll see. So um a couple of days ago, Pence got into the race, right? After like months and months of people debating if he was going to get in, if him saying, whether he was going to get in or not. He gets in the race. Again, it hasn't even been a full week. And every time a candidate gets in the race, a major one, right? Someone who's held office before, especially, they make a separate article for their campaign. So, like, if you go to Trump's page, there's the regular Trump page, the Trump 2016 campaign page, Trump 2020 campaign, 2024. You get the idea. So, after this page is made, it's only been, again, Pence only been in this race for less than a week. This guy nominates the page to be merged into Pence's main article on the premise that he has not shown that he's going to have significant sustained coverage as a candidate. So what this means is that this guy went around and he went to every single Republican candidate's page except for Trump and DeSantis and marked them down, proposing to have their campaign article merged into their regular article on the premise of, oh, we have this person is not demonstrated if they're going to have sustained coverage. And I thought to myself, because I just want you to understand, some of those pages are not that big, right? But like Jim, you understand where if somebody's been running for president for a handful of days, there's probably not going to be that much to write. And what's so weird to me is that because they also did the same thing with the Democrats, they nominated RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson to have their pages redirected to their main articles. But what's crazy is that Biden's article is smaller than a lot. Basically, it's one of the shorter articles for like a presidential campaign in 2024. But you understand where like if someone just got in the race, we haven't even started. We haven't even had, like, forget the primaries. We haven't even had any debates, and they're trying to make sure that the stuff isn't that. I mean, what a joke. So yeah, I was very annoyed by this, and I I've seen a couple of people. They're the one they're fighting the hardest to keep is RFK Jr. There's like 5 opposed votes on there. I might add myself to it because I do think it's goofy that they're trying to get rid of this thing after literally like just for the hell of it. It's like, oh, I don't want to make these pages premature. It's like they you have no idea of knowing how this primary is going to go. So deleting a page because it's not that long after the person's only been in the race for like a month or 2 months anyway, it's just I just think it's really goofy. Hey, Jim, make sure that when you go on WikiPiss, you make sure to make an account, or you don't have to make an account. Make sure to write a thank you message to the guy that's prematurely deleting every single presidential candidate's campaign article except for 3 of them. Make sure to go and send and say, "I thank you, sir, for cleaning the site of these pages and casting a crystal ball into the future to know that the only 3 people whose campaigns are going to matter are Biden, Trump, and DeSantis." Say, "I really appreciate you." You can do that without making an account. You don't have to have one to write something to them. Just point that out. So if you want to, you can do that. But yeah, Jim, that Trump documentary is coming. I know you wanted me to do China next. I've got pieces of that in Iran. It's either going to be China or Iran that gets done next. Um, and I don't know. I'm not going to say it's coming out this week, but it'll be at some point in the relative future. So I'm not gonna say I'm excited, but it's definitely something I plan on doing. Like I said, I'm really like in love with the idea of making a documentary that's so comprehensive where I don't even have to read any books about him or like read any online article. Like everything is just in this one big 2 3 hour video. I'm just saying I would really like that. Where like as like anytime I want to refer back to that 4 year period of him, I can just keep going to that video. I don't have to read anything else, watch anything else. And again, I'm not saying that other people shouldn't do that. Um, you know, because I'm never going to tell you, oh, I'm the only person to watch. But I'm just saying, I like the idea of having it all in one place. That's a very appealing prospect to me. Oh, there is very much a lot going on. It's been nonstop stuff really since April. Um, God, I still try to come on here and do the stream and tell you what my plans are. So yeah, I'm just telling you what I intend to do. I remember this one guy when we were because I did the Taft documentary I think like 4 years ago. This one guy asked me if I was going to do one on Hillary. I said I would never. You gotta be kidding me, man! She's one of the most covered. I mean, you can go and find professional ones on her because the original plan for that stuff is that the people, like, if I do one on someone that's, you know, got biographical materials on them already, um, the point of me doing it is to talk about stuff that you wouldn't hear from, like a mainstream source. Like if you watch a mainstream documentary on Obama, they're not going to talk about him taking us from 2 wars to 7, or him having a kill list or bombing Syria so many times he ran out of. They're not going to mention that. They're not going to talk about his cabinet being picked by Citibank. They're going to make sure all that stuff doesn't get referenced. So that's why I said, for someone as famous as that, the purpose of doing one on them is to mention things that are swept under the rug. Oh, I forgot him jailing journalists 6 times with the Espionage Act. So there's a lot of stuff with him that I would go over that wouldn't that doesn't get mentioned by a lot of the regular news sources. I'm not even joking. I actually would consider doing one on Rice because I have her memoir she made of her youth, and then her memoir as National Security Advisor and Secretary of State. She's very interesting. I have to admit. He's like a Sith Lord. So I'm just imagining that, like, on his last day in office, they always wear those like black suits with the tie and the white shirt. He puts on like a black robe and he goes outside to a press conference and has to see, you see like the red lightsaber just appear out, and he's got the like yellow eyes with the eyeline. Oh yeah, I was like I said, I've been reading her Secretary of State memoir. It's really good. No, she's very smart. I can see why there was a draft Condi movement for VP during 2008. I think if McCain had picked her as, I know she doesn't like want to run for office, but if she had offered herself to be his running mate and he picked her, I'm not going to say he would have won, but he would have done a hell of a lot better than he did. Like that race would have been much closer, I think, because there's no one who thought that Rice was stupid. Even her detractors admitted that she was smart. She was the polar opposite of Palin. I looked at her Senate confirmation vote. It was like 85 or 80. It was like 80 something to 15. Like almost everybody voted to have her. as the Secretary of State. Actually, Trump approached her, but she said no for the position of Secretary of State. Yeah, to have her old job back. I certainly would have preferred her over Tillerson and Pompeo. I wish she had come back. I'm trying to think. There's some book that came out. I'm forgetting its name. I can find it though. Pompey was the worst. Dude, what's so funny to me is like I think about other like secretaries of state, like the older Bush had James Baker, who was actually very um neutral and surprisingly progressive when it came to Israel Palestine. Like he didn't play into Israel's hands with that. He was critical of the government of that country. Um and it's like I, I'm not even joking, out of any of the recent one-term presidents, Trump might actually have the record of like the worst secretaries of states, like out of anybody. I'm really not joking. Like if you like I'm you might think I'm kidding, but I really believe he set a record for having just the most ineffective, just lousiest ones out of any president that came before him. Well, Tillerson was an Exxon Mobil guy whose only real foreign policy experience is that he's a rich person who knows other rich people in other countries. He was a goof. Like that's one of the reasons why Haley was able to have as much clout at the UN as she did, because Tillerson didn't do his job. He just kind of sat around. I don't even know how he passed congressional approval. Oh, I know. I mean, Jem, that politics at this point is extremely partisan. So what that means is that pretty much if someone has a D or an R by their name, they can count on 90 something percent of their own party voting for them. That's why DeVos became education secretary. Here's a lady that has no teaching experience whatsoever. That she's able to pass through, to just barely skirt her way through to be the education secretary. She was so bad that two members of her own party were like, "No, I'm not doing this." Collins and Murkowski. Betsy is a Sith Lord. Dude, I don't know how anyone supported her. Like that should let you know Republicans don't care about education. If you could put someone as ignorant as that as your education secretary, I don't know what to tell you. That lady was awful. I'm telling you, like I'm always amazed by the people they get for these jobs. It's so sad. All she kept saying was that I funded this and I funded that. Yeah, well, that's why she got picked. I mean, she gave money to Republicans and they gave her a nice little comfortable cabinet position. Like think about that. She literally bought her way to power. She gave Republican voters, I think it was like 200,000, some giant amount of money that no normal person would donate to anybody ever. Um and it's like, think about this. She because she paid them money, they gave her a cabinet position, which means that if, and I don't know, I'm not, I remember the line of succession up to the Secretary of State. So it's VP, then Speaker of the House, then Secretary of State or Senate Pro Tem, whatever. But if, think about this, like if like 8 or 9 people died, she would be the president, and she wouldn't be the president because she's this very qualified person as education secretary and this great, no, because she paid money to have this job. And, well, you know what I'm saying, right? I know it's towards the like bottom of the list, but I'm just saying that it's really scary to think if enough heartbeats stop, this person who bought their position will have ultimate power. Like in Battlestar Galactica remake. And don't get me started on those remakes, man. We could be here all day. I don't know if you remember the Universal monsters were supposed to have some remakes. We had the Mummy from 2017 with Tom Cruise, and they put all these little like Easter eggs. Like they had the Gilman's arm from Creature of the Black Lagoon in a little tank. And then they just the movie bombed, and they were like, "All right, forget it." They had what's that guy's name? I think it was Russell Crowe as Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But yeah, that was supposed to be the start of a new that remake was supposed to start of a new cinematic universe, and it tanked. I'm telling you, every time they try doing these cinematic universes outside of Marvel, it always goes to. Because you know what it is, Jim. When you're trying to make a good movie, you don't really care about setting up two, three other ones. But when your movie exists just to set up something that will hopefully be better than itself, it's deprived of its actual decency. It's a prop. I'm not joking. Every cinematic universe that isn't Marvel, like I'm not even just talking about like any cinematic universe that's not the MCU has failed. Like that whole dark universe thing that they were trying to do with the Universal monster remakes from the 30s and 40s that failed after one movie. They Sony tried to create their own universe with TASM that failed after two movies. I mean, I'm just really like thinking about like every time they try to make a series where it's like two or three different franchises set in the same universe, it always, except with the MCU, it always tanks. That's why the DCU is so sad. It's like you get a Superman movie, and you think, oh, you're gonna get Man of Steel 2 next, right? Now you get this like team up with Batman, then that gets savaged by critics. Then a year later, you get Justice League, and people trash that to infinity and beyond. Well, see, I don't really consider Star Wars to be a cinematic universe because they're all like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, right? They're just like sequels to each other, and they have some shows right on like Disney Plus and whatever. But it's like if you look at Star Wars in the 80s and even like up until Disney got it, it was just one continuous story. Like you had the first three movies, prequels, right? And then Clone Wars leads from the second to the third one, and then four, five, and six, and some comics set in between. But it wasn't like, oh, here's four, and then here's this movie. Like even now, you look at something like Rogue One. It's like, yeah, that's not part of the main series, but it's not trying to be its own series. It was just one movie that takes place before four that you can watch if you want to between three and four. So I wouldn't count Star Wars as a cinematic universe. I think it's all just one big story that's just goes from start to finish. I mean, it's kind of like by that same logic, I wouldn't count. Let me give you another good example. I guess Rocky as a cinematic universe because it's all it's Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then the sixth one which is Balboa, then Creed 2. But you see how like it's all just a linear story. There's nothing in between. There's no, oh, here's this movie that's a prequel. Here's this thing that takes place at the same time as this other thing. It's all just one continuous story. Well, I'm just saying, like, for example, if they did the first three Star Wars films back in the 70s and 80s, and then they went, okay, here's the Boba Fett film, and then here's Boba Fett 2, I'll go, okay, yeah, it's a cinematic universe. But they didn't start even trying to make like spin-off type stuff until very recently. So as a series, I still wouldn't say it was a cinematic universe. It was just a continuous plot. But like if you really look at the 2000s and 2010s, every attempt at doing a cinematic universe has just failed, like all of them except Marvel. Fantastic Four had plans to do a Silver Surfer spinoff. And the second Fantastic Four did so bad that they said, okay, we're not forget the spinoff. You're not even gonna get a third movie. And then when they did Van Four Stick, I don't even need to say how that turned out. It's so crazy how like they'll reboot something after it doesn't live up to their expectations, and then after like the reboot is even worse than what they rebooted it from. Like they double failed. God, I'm telling you, man, these series they don't. I tell you what it is. They have ego. They don't focus on just making one good movie. They have to like try to plot something out, and it doesn't work for them. Um, yeah, but I'm just giving you examples of where when they try to overindulge themselves, they start like really, you know, going to oh, don't even get me started on that. Dude, as someone that read Death of Superman and like knows that's not a permanent story, like when they wrote it, they knew they were going to bring Superman back in the comics. Um, it's so sad to see that replicated on the big screen with the version of the character that we only knew for two movies. Because it's like imagine how much more impact that would have if they had like one person as Superman for like four solo movies and then maybe three Justice League. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like someone that we actually got to spend a considerable amount of time with, and then they're just gone like that. Versus oh, here's this character who had his origin movie 3 years ago, and now he's in this other thing, and then he dies at the end of it. But you know what I'm saying? Like the principle of killing Superman off isn't in and of itself bad. It was just too damn early to try doing it. It was really rushed. Dude, James Bond is like the funnest franchise because it's like all these different versions of him and all these movies come out. And like I know that back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, people loved Bond. Like they would talk about him with Sean Connery or whatever. But I'm telling you, every time a new one comes out, people talk about it for like maybe a few days on YouTube when they're reviewing it. And then after that, like I'm not even kidding. They don't get mentioned at all. Like any of the new ones, I'll see a trailer for it maybe, and maybe somebody will make a review and they'll be like, "Oh, it was okay," but after that, nothing. It almost feels like they just make those to make those now. Like there's nothing else to make, so I guess we'll just keep pumping these out. Like there's, you know, what I'm saying, like no one talks about it. That no one I know talks. People know what it is, right? Kind of like what's another good example? Like Fantastic Four. Like people know what it is. They just don't watch it. They don't. It like it's nothing to them. Brisbane was the. Oh yeah. Well, listen. Uh, I, I'm about to say, yeah, Pierce Brosnan. But I'm just saying that I'm not telling you none of them are good or classic. What I am saying to you is I think that's another series that's past its prime that just kind of like is still around because it's made money in the past. Um, and it's like it's putting and like currently it's putting out some films that aren't terrible, but they're not anything special. So it just kind of like it kind of exists on retroactive on like nostalgia basically. It's not an American thing, too much thinking involved. I'm just saying I don't hear anyone talking about them. Like when I see somebody talk about James Bond, it's usually the older films like GoldenEye or what's the other one? Tomorrow Never Dies. Right. It's just like with Transformers. They make a lot of money overseas. I'm just saying that I don't really hear anyone mentioning Bond at all, like outside of past context, like, oh, this is my favorite Bond actor, it's my favorite movie from 20, 30 years ago. I love both of those. No, I'm hit or miss with the movies. I like the overall, Transformers franchise. But the films are just again hit or miss for me. I feel the same way towards Transformers that I feel towards X-Men, where I really like X-Men overall, but the films are just, all over the place. Um, and I feel like they have the same problems where there's like a lot of characters, and when they do a comic or a cartoon, they have more time to, flesh things out. But when you're doing a 2-hour movie and you have to keep adding more and more each film, it's harder to do that. I'm still waiting for a Thundercat movie. Didn't we get one that was like awful that everybody was talking trash about a year ago? It might have been a few years ago. Let me see. I type in Thundercat, I get this I think it's a rapper. No, I know what Thundercat is. I saw Thundercat when the show before with what was it with I think it's Skeletor, the one that has that cloak with the like skeleton face. I remember that show. Tell me what it is. I was just trying to see if the film had come out. Oh no, that's He-Man. Hey, well, you know what? I still know what Thundercats is. I've heard of it before. I got my '80s properties mixed up. That reminds me of when Natalie Portman admitted that when she auditioned for Star Wars Episode One, she thought it was Star Trek. The guy, the what's that guy's name? Taika Waititi, the director for Thor 3 and 4. He asked Portman if she wanted to be in Star Wars, and apparently completely forgot that she was one of the lead actors of the prequels. Like she had to remind him, I've done those. Let me see here. So, no, people really do just forget like basic stuff about. I mean, like my thing is, I understand where a casual person might forget, but it's like if you're working with somebody and like Star Wars was the thing that put her on the map, like no one knew who she was before that. It's like you really forgot what led them to their fame. Oh, that's you know what? That's why I mixed them up. There's a He-Man Thundercats crossover. That's why I okay. Two '80s properties. I knew there was a reason why I would have some kind of like thing where I forgot. No, Akatsuki Merchant. I don't think you're going to get a solo Quicksilver movie. Fox sold the rights to Marvel, and our 20th Century Fox lost the rights or whatever. So what's probably going to end up happening is you'll get Quicksilver on a Brotherhood of Mutants team, and then maybe they might get a Disney Plus series that you get like 5 episodes of. They have too many damn characters for their own good, I tell you. I'm still mad about them killing Quicksilver off in Avengers 2. It's like he's one of the longest lasting members of that team, and they what a waste. That's like a running gag where there's some character that's like around for a lot of stuff in either the comics or cartoon or whatever, and then when they're in live action, they get killed off like really early and abruptly. But yeah, I know Jem's probably gonna unsubscribe because I mixed up Thundercats and He-Man. So he'll be very ready to disappear and to write some nasty stuff about me. I can already see the comments now. He said that I was exposed. I showed my ignorance. That he'll never trust my knowledge on anything ever again. That the covers have been pulled. I don't think I'll be able to recover from this. I've really been revealed here. So I understand if you don't want to watch anymore. I completely get it. I could just picture Jem right now. He's not even watching the stream anymore. He's up from his computer and he's going around his house looking at his 5 portraits of his British heroes: Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, Diana, Queen Elizabeth, and Queen Victoria. He's looking at them and he's saying, "Oh, my UK heroes. I feel so bad about what I've just witnessed. I hope your spirits will give to overcome this great obstacle." I want to talk to Akatsuki Merchant. He's the one that wanted to make like 10 Black Panther spinoffs. He was already trying to write his script for his Killmonger solo movie. I just passed the portrait of the E2 queen. You know what? I shouldn't even say 5. It's probably like 6 because you have Theresa May on your wall as well. She's another figure that you have there. She's the when what's her name when Liz Truss became prime minister, you put her picture up there, and then after 30 days, you had to take it off. Was it 30 days or it was 60 days rather, like 6 weeks? It was like 40 something. Dude, I swear I've never seen a head of state retire that fast. Like that was crazy. That and I said that's one of the biggest news stories of the year because I've never seen that with any out of all the years of following this stuff. I've never seen the leader of a country be like, okay, well, I had this person resign. I just got in a month ago, but I'm out. Well, yeah, but Jem, they say the same thing about Boris Johnson, and they said the same thing about Theresa May, and they said the same thing about David Cameron. So I mean, are all of these people awful? Because how? I mean, like if you want to say her getting out after a month shows she was bad, it's like, well, I mean, these other people all left in basically resignation and disgrace too. Remember, Johnson and May didn't even have 4 years. Like, look, I know you don't like Thatcher, Jim, but Thatcher had 10 years from 79 to 90. She had a leadership challenge, and I know that's like part of what caused her to, retire. But you get what I'm saying of how like that's someone who stayed much longer than most of them, and you still say she was bad. So it's like, does them getting out or resigning after a few years show they're bad, or is it just a thing where they just weren't as lucky as Thatcher? I don't know. Thatcher was an anomaly. Dude, I swear the world must have been in like the most right wing of moods in the 80s. Like you look at Thatcher getting what is that, three terms? It was like 83 and 87 she was reelected. And then you look at Reagan's like, landslide victories against Carter and Mondale in 80 and 84, and it's like, and then you look at, the older Bush smushing Dukakis in 88. It's like there was a real right wing conservative wind blowing through these countries at that time. It's really nuts. But it's really funny because now, if you look at national elections in the U.S. since '88, the Republicans only win because of the Electoral College. I mean, I know you don't like Haley, but she's right when she says that Republicans have lost the popular vote in 7 out of the last 8 presidential elections. That's true. So that right wing wave, it's still it exists still, and it's still strong in certain parts of the U.S. and because of this crappy electoral system. But I do think it is closer to its deathbed than to like coming back. I do believe that. This woman has some nice hair. Wow, it's long and it's blonde at the bottom, dark at the top. Wow. Of course, I wouldn't say anything because I don't want to get me too. I'm just too afraid to comment anybody because anything is like is a harassment at this point. You can't even just say something nice without Oh my god, I felt so uncomfortable. So forget it. Such is the modern era. Hey, Jem, I was just thinking about this. I'm like, so in '96, now you know what? Let's put it this way: in '92, the Republicans lose the popular vote any election. In '96, the same thing happens again. In 2000, they win the election, but they lose the popular vote. And then in 2004, they win the popular vote and the election. They lose both in 2008. They lose both again in 2012. They lose the popular vote, win the election 2016. They lose both again in 2000. So literally, the only time they've won the popular vote since '88 was was with against Kerry. Like it's really crazy to think that we have a political party that is guaranteed to lose a majority of the votes to whoever the Democrat is, and they're somehow still competitive. They still have a chance of winning. Like I can't think of any other country where you can get second place from the vote total and still win the election. You can still be the person who wins with less votes than the person who actually got picked by the most people. Like that's nuts to me. And it's even scarier when you remember that people forget this, but Biden's victory over Trump was like 3 states that determined it. That if they had voted a different way by like 100,000, I think you've known I'm talking about, Jem, where it's like Georgia, Arizona, and somewhere else. But I was just thinking of how crazy it is that Biden got 7 million more votes than Trump, and still just barely like I'm just saying, like, that's really disturbing that you can in a hypothetical you could have 20 million more votes than somebody else and still not be guaranteed a win. Like you can blow them out with the number of people that support you over them and still not have a victory. So I'm glad Texas is getting more and more blue. Same thing with Georgia, same thing with arguably with Arizona. I'm glad. EL something, whatever that guy's name is. You always have these usernames I can't even pronounce. Let's see here. I like how Akatsuki Merchant's last comment was, "You've been caught and handed. You've been caught red-handed," and then he just doesn't write anything. I guess he got caught red-handed too. He was exposed. It's always interesting seeing like members of law enforcement with their like just around casually getting something from a place, and then they have the radio going off. So when you come up here, you see all types of characters moving around and flailing and throwing things. I was shocked when I came at it was like 8, and just seeing all the cars that were in the line. I was like, this is every time I think that they're finally going out of business, or no longer, gonna not going out of business, but I guess not getting as much business. There's always like a day you come where you just see a resurgence or some heightened number of people. Oh, this person is smoking or vaping or whatever that is. Person put their drink on top of the car when they were getting in. Yeah, I do, as irritating as it is to not be able to stream like from my place on the weekend because of like just the conditions of somebody else being there and like not having a room to do it in. Um, at the very least, the entertaining part about coming up here is just seeing the like some of the people and the little stuff that they do and the motions and just how they act. Like you'll have one person right now who's on their phone just kind of walk like flailing about waiting for their thing, and then you have another three that are all sitting up together and talking and jumping around and touching each other and hugging up and whatnot. So that's always the part I find the most fascinating. The other part of it is just seeing how many of these cars will stay in the same place for 3 hours. I guess like it gets me because it's like this is they always talk about, oh, this is parking that's exclusive for customers of da da da. Da. It's like these aren't even, they're not even pretending that they're getting something from here. So you come here and you can come at 8 in the morning and come back at 12 and you'll see the same car parked in the same spot. I'm just glad that they didn't take this spot over here because I really hate parking directly in front of where people get their stuff because they have the drive-through line right behind there. So that means that you'll often get boxed in and have to wait for people to go further up or for traffic to die down a little bit as far as with the line. So I'm always glad when I can get one of the spots over here on this other side I go to. Coffee at 10 in the morning on a Saturday. She's driving a giant car. Wow. Well, I guess you need a big one to fit all three of them in there. Yeah, I don't. What's a way of putting it? The triangle scam is such a accurate video. The more I've like just kind of sat and thought about it, because it really just affirms a lot of what I say and how I feel about them. It's like, yeah, there are some I think are nice, looking, and you might enjoy the sight of or whatever. But as far as any of this other grander stuff of, oh, I'm gonna try, no, I'm good. I remember me and my friend, we were talking about how there was this one woman I saw who had a kid and he was like sitting on her lap, and We were talking about how you have some chicks where you just look at me like, yeah, I see that you never had to worry about not having a partner. They really do hop from one banana to the next. Like it's not even fun. It's funny to me as far as like people trying to pretend online that they're these angelic angels who never do anything wrong and are so virtuous and are just looking for a nice guy and all this other crap. But it's just funny like thinking about, oh, relationship with this guy ended, time to enter it with this other person in 2 days or a day or next week. Like they just trade off from one to the next. Two more just came up here. People have some really dark windows. Like you can't see anything in there. Like this lady just got inside of her car and I can't even see her. Very, very dark. I always saw people do that. It's like a how low can you go type thing where they just want to make sure that if they do something private or whatever, you can't view it or can't look to see what it is. There's definitely a weird infantilism that people love about women. Oh, absolutely. I mean, they treat them like honestly, people make more excuses for women, like chicks in general, than they do for small children. I've seen people be like harder and more aggressive with kids than they are with grown women who do stupid things. Told you about that broad that I did a whole video about her, the one that was like, "Oh, you should have done more to stay in school, even though the reason I didn't stay there was because I couldn't afford it, and the people who could afford it refused to pay for it for me." But then she she can come down hard on me for that. But when you get this broad who has a kid that she knows from the moment a banana is entered inside of her, she can't afford, but is having nonetheless, uh oh, she's struggling through her life and she probably has trauma in her background, and I'm just thinking to myself, it's so funny how, again, they'll condemn you over anything, but when there's somebody with a triangle like them, defense, 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 excuse, excuse, excuse. And that's why I said I don't get the point of even trying to enter a relationship with one of those bastards, because what is the purpose of being with someone who you are going to be blamed not only for the decisions of, but for anything that goes wrong. So if a woman cheats on you, oh, you probably weren't doing enough to satisfy her. Oh, if a woman tries to get all your money, oh, you should have known that she would try doing this, because and you have to know which types of women you're. It's like everything is always your damn fault with these bastards. So I said, what's the purpose of subjecting yourself to that? No, there's definitely infantilism involved with women, like just the way that people act towards them and the things they say in defense of them. They're more like grown children than they are like actual adult contemporaries of yours. Like, stop with the pity party for people who don't deserve it. Some people are in bad situations because of bad decisions. Not everything needs a diagnosis from strangers online. And remember, the problem I have is those same strangers will be the same ones to wag their finger at you when something goes wrong in your own life. So you know that they're only defending her as hard as they are because of this. And I find that really sad and pathetic. God, people get so mesmerized by triangles, man. Like, but you need to pick a better shape to try and sit here and make all these excuses for. No, there's plenty of bad situations, but Akatsuki merchant, ask yourself this: if you know you can't afford to have a kid, and you allow yourself to get involved with someone in that way with no protection whatsoever, why should I feel sorry for you? I feel bad for the kid, but I mean, it's like, again, what about that in any way would you try to say is not the fault of the person that again, they weren't forced to do this, they chose to. So that's why I said it just drives me crazy. Like, people defend them like there's no tomorrow, and that's why I said my patience for a lot of those guys has gone down the drain as far as trying to like sit there and listen to them. Like we were talking about that. Remember the Jove guy? Oh, you don't understand boy girl interactions at all. But then in the same series of paragraphs where he's chastising me over some supposed blindness and deficiencies and all this other crap he's pulling out of his, you know what, the guy admits that he doesn't talk to or ask out chicks anyway. So how do you say someone doesn't know what they're doing, but then they end up with the same result as you? Like you're such this pimp romance genius, but then you end up with the same result as the person who, according to you, is blind. Remember, you're the genius. That's why you ended up with the same result as them. And again, he really wrote that thinking it made sense. So I said, I'm just tired of the lies, man, of these people coming on here and acting like they're such geniuses and they know everything and you're an idiot. And I'm sick of it. Because again, if he was so damn smart, what would he be doing? For one, he wouldn't be watching that type of content because again, there's no reason if he weren't in this situation to be watching this stuff. Two, he would be spreading the word. He would have his own channel where he talks about all these successful things that are going to now suddenly make everyone's life better with these magic broads that start falling from the sky. But instead, he didn't. You go on his channel, you see some drums. So I said, man, people just they all they do is come on here and act like they're just the hottest thing in the world. It's so sad. So I said it's the rise of the lies. Like when you go online, just expect no one there to actually be telling the truth about anything. Especially the ones that hide their face and never show any proof. That those are the chief liars. That's their favorite hobby. They come on here, no evidence, but believe me. Remember, in their backwards minds, the person with proof is incorrect, but the people who have no evidence are correct. Oh man, I tell you, logic is gone, man. At this point, it's dead. I'm not even kidding. I've seen people like be more aggressive towards little kids than towards grown women. Like you'll have a parent chastise their kid for I don't know, lying about not having any homework, and it'll be more condemning than a grown person who has a child with again that she can't take care of, or who cheats on their significant other. I mean, this I've seen people make excuses for women in all of these scenarios. They always defend them. You've had women kill their kids, and they have people talking about, oh, she was stressed and all this other nonsense. And you know damn well if a man did that, nobody would say, "Oh, well, he had postpartum depression and his mental health." No, no one would stick up for that nonsense. And they shouldn't, because there's plenty of parents who have kids that they're stressed over and they don't, end their life. I mean, so you know what I'm saying? It's just people just they'll defend anything with involving a triangle. Mm. I remember that stream I did, it was called "Where Are the Payoffs?" and I was talking about all the like different situations where you talk to some woman and the resolution is just like nothing. It's just her flapping her gums month after month, and it doesn't advance or evolve in any capacity. And then people are confused as to why you don't want to bother with them anymore. But it was funny because I was just thinking about how if you listen to these guys, they really like the false premise when they give the advice is that the advice is going to help you, but the other false part of it is they try to make it sound like if you follow what they're telling you, they're then going to be on your side in case it doesn't pan out. When if anything, they'll just keep finding more ways to say you did something wrong. Because remember, it's always the man's fault, no matter what. Well, just like I gave the example of that job, it's like if that was a 40-hour a week job, I would have jumped at it. But if you guys are only going to pay me for 4 to 6 hours a day, and then I'm driving from this place to that place, even if you claim you're going to reimburse me for some of it, it's like, what the hell am I even making? That's why I said the whole thing is stupid to me. That pity party does not let up, man. Yeah, part of me was thinking about coffee, but I've got strawberry milk at home. I have regular milk. I have I mean, it's whenever I have like an assortment of stuff I can get that I like as much or even more, then I'll just say forget it. So yeah, I'm probably not going to go with that. Let's see here. Stop with the pity party. It is definitely a pity party. It is a time for finding ways to make excuses for them as far as the eye can see. It would just be really interesting to like do a video and just kind of ask these people like what is the purpose of you being here? Like, when they come and they start writing all that stuff, it's like do you really believe that you are writing something we've never seen before, or that it's going to change my mind? I'm not joking. I really do wonder what goes through their mind when they start typing on, because they always try to make it sound like they don't care, but people who don't care just don't write anything. Like if they just wouldn't write something. Uh Again, I don't care much for sports, so you'll never see a comment from me on a sports video. But it's just so interesting, like what causes them to feel as if what they're writing is something that is different from what anyone else has written. Mm. I don't know. I'm always curious as to what causes them to think they're typing something that's that's never been written before, or maybe they think it might have been written one time in the past. I just find that interesting. Like, what causes you to think that you're going to make some argument? They really don't even try to make an argument. They just start blurting out a bunch of advice that nobody asked for. Like, what causes you to believe you're saying something that we've never seen before, or that's like brand new, or completely original? I'm very serious about that. Like, I'd love to know, like, what sparks them to do this. They have this woman over here. She is wearing some short shorts. They come up to like just right above the backside. It is a nice sight. I told you, man. That's why the internet stuff with these chicks is so funny to me. Like, people always act as though when you speak to a broad online, she's so beautiful, and I must be with her. And I've never seen someone. It's like, I can just go and sit somewhere for an hour, maybe two, and you'll see five, six, eight, nine different chicks that I think are attractive. Like, it's attractiveness is, and I swear, it is a dime a dozen. It is not hard at all to find someone, whether online, but I guess in real life, people don't do it as blatantly with like the whole, oh my God, she's so beautiful thing, as they do online. But you get my point. Like, it's just disturbing that there's so many of them, and people really, they put them on this pedestal for no reason at all. Yeah, this whole thing is just crazy, man. Even this one right here, I mean, she's got some nice long hair. I don't know. I'm just I remember I had that one broad that was talking about my standards are too high or some kind of nonsense, and I was just laughing at it because you don't tell the person that approaches 90 or 100 of them, and and gets turned down, that they're the one with the high standards. But it's just really comedic when I just think about like how open I am to this stuff, and just how you know limited they are in terms of what they like or accept. It's really comedic to me. Just how it's like it would be like if someone, um give you an example. If somebody is like, all right, here's 100 cars I would be totally up for driving, and the only thing I need is for the owner of the car to give me consent to put it up for the market, and I can purchase it, whatever. And then after you're like the owners of the markets, like, we're not letting you buy this car, you can't have it, no chance. Someone else like, well, maybe you're very limited in terms of the depths of cars that you would. It's like, no, the person that says, hey, I'm fine with over 100 cars, that is not the one that is exclusive or has these extremely tiny interests. I mean, it's just it really is like taking the issue of the other side and applying it to the one that is open. Like, I just think it's funny that they're like this. That's what I said. I really do in real life with people. And it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but there are people who try to do like the whole, oh, you probably are this way. It's like, I don't even bother arguing with them, because what's the point? They're just going to make up stuff anyway. I'm back at swimming lessons. Oh, let me get. So you were so disgusted by me not remembering that Skeletor was what series he was from, that you're going to take swimming lessons so you can escape the country I'm in. You despise me that much over an honest mistake. I've attracted your scorn to such a degree as for you to try to manually leave the country via water. I'm just imagining someone like actually swimming from America to Canada, like are just like they swim all over the world to get away from that one person. Wow, I was definitely banished last month. Even though according to that person, I chose to be banished. I'm telling you, man, when people do like insane things, they can justify it to themselves in any kind of roundabout way. It's really interesting. Like, imagine if I remember Akatsuki Merchant said he didn't like what movie was that? Um, there was a movie Akatsuki Merchant said he didn't like, but it would be like if he writes that he didn't like that movie, and I'm like, all right, banned. And then after he comes back, I'm like, Akatsuki Merchant chose to be banned. It's like, yeah, by saying he like I'm the one that banned him, and I'm like, he made me do this. That person is just so unjust. Well, I think they're gonna eventually get their just desserts. Like I don't believe in karma. By the way, I should say this. Their idea of karma is hilarious. Like they think if you wish something on somebody else, it'll happen to you. So, like for example, if you wish that, like, if like let's say you hate someone, right? And you're like, I hope this person passes. They will say, oh, if you say that, then you will pass. I'm like, that's really crazy. So if I say that someone who drives drunk and I hope they get, they drive drunk and I say, I hope they get a DUI, I'm going to get a DUI even though I don't drink. If I say that I hope this woman who keeps sleeping around with the whole neighborhood gets pregnant, then I will suddenly become pregnant. If I say I hope this woman misses her period, then I will miss my period. I'm not joking, they really believe that stupid stuff. I hope that gem gets millions of dollars and then coins will fall from the sky. But you know what I'm saying? Like, karma is about bad deeds, not that's what I'm saying. Like, look, if you do something like murder a person, inflict damage to their property, okay, something bad is gonna, I get that. But if you say, man, I sure wouldn't mind if that person passed, you're really going to die because you said you hope or wouldn't mind something. You know what I'm saying? Of how you can't say someone hoping something happens is the same as them trying to do it. It's not. Dude, they're like, oh, when they said that, I was on the floor laughing. So if you say something happens to somebody, it'll happen to you. I hope this guy um has 100,000 subs on YouTube, and then I will now have 100,000 subs on YouTube. I hope Jem's channel gets millions and millions of views, and then suddenly millions and millions of like. Well, you know what? This one sub of mine, I asked him, like, I was pointing out how there's an irregularity where channels with large subs tend to get numbers of views that are not consistent with their subs. And the real reason for that is a lot of times these channels been around for 10, 15 years, so a lot of those subs are dead old accounts that aren't being used anyway. But the guy told me, oh, it's probably just bots. And I'm like, dude, think about how stupid this is. Let's say you can bot your sub count, right? You can use some bots to make the subs look larger. Why the hell wouldn't you bot the views as well? Like, you don't get paid for subs, you get paid for views. So why would you bot the number of, well, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, just think about this. If you could bot your sub count, why wouldn't you bot the view count? Dude, I'm telling you, it's like every news channel. Oh, Young Turks is the perfect example. They like I made this point before. I said if they have what 5 million subs, if they were to get isn't it I think like what 10% of 5 million, don't quote me, but I think it's 500,000. They usually get maybe 60,000, 70,000, 100,000 at best. Like the number of subs that actually watch them is very telling. That's what I'm saying. Because this year I was getting plenty of like way more views than before. Where I was getting like 100 on average, or even higher than that sometimes. Um, and that's why I was saying that I don't really care about subscribers anymore because people don't watch anyway. So I it's just funny that they're all like celebrating. I got 100,000 subs. I got 1 million. It's like, yeah, but your views, the views, it's like 20,000. It's like 30,000. It's like like literally the view count would only be impressive if they had, let's say, like 80,000 or 90,000. Like if the Young Turks had 90,000 subs, they're getting 80,000 views. That means damn near all their subs are watching their stuff. But because they have 5 million, they shouldn't be getting 5-digit number views ever. They should be getting 6-digit at minimum. So yeah, they all celebrate. Ooh, we got more. The only time they ever talked about views was when Jenk was like, we've had over 1 billion views. I'm like, yeah, but that's what the average view for a TYT video is some 5-digit number. And it's literally been that way for years. Like when I was in high school, for example, their stuff had 5-digit views. They're not like their audience is increasing artificially from the sub count, but in terms of their overall reach, it's still like a few thousand people. Yeah, it's cumulative. Yeah, but I'm saying you get what I'm pointing at, that these channels brag and they're so happy about, oh, I got 100,000, 500,000, a million, 2 million, but the actual view count is not impressive at all. Like, look, I'm a channel with 2,000 subs, right? So if I get a video with 1,000 views, that means almost half of my subscribers watched it. How many TYT videos? They got 5 million subs, right? How many videos have you seen from them where it's 2 million views? Secular Talk has 1 million subscribers. How many videos does he have with 500,000? Certainly not any recent one. Well, that's what I'm saying. That they like. I watched one channel. I'm not even joking. These people have 80. They have no, not actually. I'm giving them too much credit. Let me see how many subs they have. I'm gonna just give you an example. Uh, they talk about like movies and shows and whatnot, and they're one of those like anti woke channels that like the outrage culture guys, where people get mad about representation in media, so they could, what I'm talking about, where they like the people that like basically get profit off of angry guys online. So they have 185,000 subs, and I'm not even joking to you, they just streamed yesterday. Their stream has 1.4 thousand views. So again, if I did a stream with 1.4 thousand views, that's over half of my subs watch that, right? But their last stream on their 185,000 sub channel only has 1.4 thousand views. The stream before that has 6.4 thousand. The stream before that has 1.9 thousand, 1.9, 2.6, 1.6, 2.8, 3.7. So do you see what I'm talking about? Like they're getting way more views on streams than I do. That's true. But the number of subs that actually watch that stuff is very small, because their regular videos 38,000, 30,000, 80,000, 40,000, 50, like that's That's okay for their size, their channel. It still isn't even half of their subscribers, but whatever, right? It's okay. It's not great, but it's adequate. Like somebody could realistically be making a living off of a channel with that number of views per video. But just remember when they stream, the number of people that actually watch that stuff is very small. When they stream, they sometimes might, like on a video, they might get 50, 60, $70. They might get $2, $3 off of a stream with the views that they have. Think about that. Every video they do is getting tens of thousands of views. Every stream they do is getting less than 10,000 views. I'm looking at the last two. They don't stream every day. I'm looking at all the streams they've done this month. Not a single one has cracked 7,000. At maximum, it was 6,000. At minimum, it was 1,000. A little bit over 1,000, rather. It's like 1.4. All the streams from the last 7 months, I have not seen a single one crack 7,000. Excuse me. I see 3 from last year. So again, none have cracked 10,000. I'm looking. Oh, there's one with 10,000. Okay, that's from a year ago. But yeah, out of all the streams they've done, the highest they can get is 8,000 on a channel with 185,000 subs. That's what I said, man. All this stuff about sub counts, like get lost with it, man. I'm serious. I couldn't care less if I only had 2,000 subs for the rest of the lifetime of me even being on this site. If as long as people watch, I'll be open to making stuff. But I'm not about to sit here and get excited for overinflated numbers. Because again, you look at TYT, you're like, oh damn, they have 5 million. Your streams are good, just need to introduce more interactions. I mean, look, I'm not bothered when there's only a few people watching because a lot of people watch the replay. Well, I told you I'm into multiple different things. Sometimes the news, sometimes some romance stuff, some other entertainment, depending on how much of it there is at a given time. So yeah, at any point, I'll usually just have various things I discuss. All I'm getting at is I would rather have 2,000 subs with increasing numbers of views, which I am getting, than an increased number of subs and like let's say you have 10,000 and you get maybe 200 a video. Like that means I got a 5 times sub count increase, but only a double increase number of people that watch stuff daily or watch stuff consistently. So that's why I said there's no point in having more subs. There really isn't. They just overinflate your number. That's all I care about. Views, views, views. I go and I look at my thing that says, 200 views today, 500. All right, good. Just keep increasing it. Views, views, views. That's all I care about. No, they can forget all this other stuff. People really get so excited for sub count increases. It's really funny. If you can replicate what Jimmy Dore is doing in your content, that would be great. Well, you understand that like he has a whole I feel like that's different because he didn't start out by himself. TYT gave him that channel. And he had like a studio in his garage. He has editors. I feel like you're kind of comparing apples and oranges where I don't really have like a set of people doing stuff for me. If I make a video, I have to edit it. I have to, do everything effectively. So I don't yeah, I feel like you're not really taking into consideration that there was a lot of stuff that and people involved with getting him to where he is. like I said, man, I'm just trying to make some stuff, and if you like it, cool. If you don't, it is what it is. Um, but yeah, just understand that there are different, like the a lot of those bigger, even the ones I like, a lot of the bigger channels have people that do stuff for them. I don't have that, so I'm not going to be able to have those types of resources for my type of thing. Because remember, last month before that, I was having to travel around for looking for a job. A lot of these people, they get paid so much on this site. Literally, all they do is just make videos every day. They get to sell on their computer all day long. So I'm just telling you that there are disadvantages I have as someone who's much smaller, but I don't believe that the quality of content most of them make is really that much better. Like they might have a better camera, audio, whatever, but as far as like what they're saying, I don't believe it is, no. And the Kotsky merchant just vanished. He flew the coop. Can't believe I had my seatbelt on for this whole thing. I really did forget to take it off. I'm just so used to just jumping in, having it on. But yeah, it's just interesting to watch the dynamics of this site. Like people put so much stock into sub count increases, but so little into actual engagement from their subscribers. Um, what else am I gonna say here? So, like I said, I'll try to call the Secretary of State's office. I've been putting it off, I know, but again, stuff has been frustrating this week. There was a new scandal that broke out, not about me, but somebody else. I kind of got had to like play defensive for them. Um, I'm gonna see if I can do the Trump China policy section of that giant documentary that's eventually gonna come. And think of what else is gonna happen. That we should be good. I know that Jim wants me to put the link for the Larry Elder presidential campaign, so people can donate to Larry and wish him luck in his quest to be the first African American president from the Republican Party, which will not happen probably realistically until 2070. But uh, I'll remember to put the link next time, Jim. I promise. I'll make sure to everybody can go and donate to him and Haley and Scott and all the other people that are pulling that 1 or 2%. We can give them a nice little boost. But yeah, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. I'm gonna go and run this last errand because this person wants me to do something that I don't think is necessary, but I'll do it anyway just to get out the way. Um, and I will be back on Monday, hopefully from the place instead of out here where all these goofy people. Um, so thanks for showing up, Jem, Akatsuki Merchants, and have a good rest of your Saturday. I appreciate you. See you.